Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Dr. Ali and my fellow groupmates. So today we are going to present about our project which entitled The Insights of Malay-Terengganu Dialect in Malaysia. So before we start with our presentation, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Ashraf and I'm the leader for this group. And in this group, we have Mashita, Syaira Aznida, and Nur Shahira binti Muhammad Rusti. So without further ado, let's begin with the first presenter. Our project, which entitled
All right, good day to Dr. Ali. So my name is Malay-Terengganu Zida and I'm going to be presenting about the background of our study. So generally, our project, we aim to discover about the nature of the Malay-Terengganu dialect in Malaysia, in Terengganu itself. So throughout the research, we have used 4 articles. All of them are related to the Terengganu dialect, which explains few characteristics that can be found in the dialect itself. So from our intensive research, we have interviewed 2 respondents born and raised in Terengganu, and we aim to investigate on how they speak the language with the Terengganu dialect and how it affects their daily life. And also we will look into the nature of the dialect itself, its linguistic features, such as this Terengganu dialect is quite unique. There are some linguistic features that they have used in this dialect, such as the nasal deletion, where they omitted the bilabial mah in words like sampah. Sampah means rubbish. It is a standard Malay. It is a standard Malay language, and that in Terengganu they said it as sapah. They omitted the mah bilabial mah. So that is one of the features that we would like to investigate, that we would like to know about the nature of the dialects itself. So that is all for the background of this study. We may continue with the objective of the study. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and very good day to Sir Ali. My name is Nur Shahira binti Muhammad Rusdi. So for the objective of the study, during this project, there are a few objectives that we want to attain as the main idea of this extent review project. The first main objective is to study the nature of dialect in Terengganu, because in Terengganu, there are many people living in the same community that use the same way of speaking in their daily communication. The next one is to study the intercultural communication among the society in Terengganu. So in Terengganu, there are many people with different ethnic and background that are living in the same area. Therefore, this research will determine on how their backgrounds will affect the dialect used in Terengganu. Last but not least is to find out the factors that contribute to the change of dialect in Malay-Terengganu community. This is because there are many people, especially Malay, that migrated from other state to Terengganu for study and working purpose. Therefore, with the migration of those people, there will be a slight or huge variety of changes in the dialect spoken in Terengganu. That's all from me. Proceed to next presenter.
All right, thank you, Nur Shahira. So let's proceed to the literature review part. And the first article is about knowing the taboos improve intercultural communication, a study at Terengganu. So based on the article, the author has mentioned about the aim of the studies. Generally, the studies is to learn about the taboos that would happen in the society in Terengganu. And it is important to know all about the taboos to maintain the harmonious in the community and avoid any sensitive issues occurred. From the research, the author had been carried out the research by investigating the intercultural communication among the students in University Malaysia-Terengganu with three different of ethnic backgrounds, which is Malay, Chinese, and Indian. So there are a variety of methods that have been used by the researchers to carry out the research, such as mixed method approach, interview, and doing surveys among the students in the university itself. So taboo is generally things that are forbidden to do in our lives, and it could be in our daily language use in our language itself. We do have some words that are forbidden to say. If we do so, it can lead to anger of some people and even sinful for some religions such as Islam. In Malaysia, there are so many dialects that are spoken among the society in this country, and one of it is Terengganu dialect, which become the main topic for this research. Based on the research, language is the main tool to spread knowledge or information among each other, and the way we pronounce it and intonation, if we compare with other ethnic groups. For instance, in Malay language, there are many words that can be used to describe animals or plants, such as pig. In Malay language, we mostly refer pig as babi or kinzir, but the word babi is generally sounded negative and could be misleading by the society these days, and also harsh to be used. Same goes to the word unintelligent. In Malay, we say tidak pandai or bodoh, and the word bodoh is not suitable to be used, especially when we are talking formally or with someone that are older than us, and more commonly used among the same age community, such as teenagers. Okay, so for methodology aspect, the author had primarily used ethnography method. So what is ethnography method? Ethnography method is a kind of method which require us to go to that place where we want to carry out the so to conduct the method, we need to observe and visit in the place, and the researcher also had record all the things, all the things that happen around the area, such as during the interview, so that they can collect all the data that they want to gather during the investigations of that topic. So based on the survey that have been carried out, there are a few aspects that became the questions for researchers, such as objects, animals, dietary, and religion. This is because every ethnic has their own beliefs about these things that has been mentioned. For example, in Malay Muslim community, they are forbidden to eat pork, while the non-Muslims community, they are allowed to eat pork because it is not forbidden in their religious belief. For animal aspect, the authors have mentioned about the taboo in keeping dogs among the Malay community as a pet, which has become the conscious or questions among the Chinese, that they always ask why Malays cannot keep dog as a pet in their house. So other than that, talking about cow in front of the Hindus friends or Indian friends, also not quite appropriate, to talk about it in front of the Indian friends, because a cow is symbolic to their religion, and they are more referring cow as holy animals. So based on the finding research, we need to be more careful in any words and every words or sentence that we use when we want to communicate or spread information to other people. This is because if we use wrong structure of sentence or words, it can be misleading and affect the harmonies that we have in our country. So that's all for my part. We move on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad Ashraf. Now we proceed to the next article, which is the change factor of Malay dialect in the community, a study in Besut, Terengganu. Before that, I would like to introduce my name. My name is Mashita binti Ghazali. So in this study, it confirms that the shift in Malay dialect among the local people and investigate the reasons that contribute to be the change. The reasons of change of the dialect discovered by literature studies and are divided into two categories, which are the first one is being internet external influences, and the second is being internet elements or influences. Thus, the goals of this research project are to look at the variables that impacts the dialect shift among the Malay community in the Terengganu. So these elements are split into two categories, like what I have mentioned before. which are the first one is internal factors, which is associated with dialect changes, and the external factors are associated with the dialect changes also. And other aspects that might be highlighted in this study include the speaker's age and the interaction between the environment following with the puberty, such as family, the friends, and the community. So as a result, a person's or a speaker's surrounding, such as urbanization and the social interaction can impact the shift of the dialect. For example, Terengganu dialect in Besut Terengganu. And also, it agrees with the assertion by noting that the role of the mother tongue in the lives of the speakers is changed by the capitalistic lifestyle, such as we all know today, mass media lifestyle, a consumptive or industrialism or multinational, and all of this that I have mentioned, which are the indicators of the urbanization. And in this research, this also demonstrates that the change happens between the generations, as demonstrated by the interviewees who discovered, and by the researchers, a clear contrast between the usage of the language across successive generations, and the shift in the dialects characteristics that can be seen as it diminish through time in their study. So furthermore, as individuals relocate to a different location or region, the dialect shift. So they may use the language or the dialect of the new region in which they have settled, and as a result of their infrequent use, they will gradually forget their original dialect. So as a conclusion in this particular research, I have mentioned before, we have like two main factors that may affect the change of dialect in Besut Terengganu, which are the internal and the external factors. So that's all from my research in this article, and we can proceed to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mashta. So we are going to continue with the third article, which is the continuum of Terengganu dialect along the East Coast Malaysia, a geolinguistic study. So a geolinguistic study means that they focused more on the geographic features where the speakers are located and how do they locate them in the first place. So this article depicts the nature and also the linguistic characteristic of the Terengganu Malay dialect. They are very much peculiar and different from the standard Malay dialect. And this article also discusses about the distribution of Terengganu dialect to other states, which are Pahang and Johor. So, how does the distribution of Terengganu dialect to these East Coast states happen in the first place? It's because the people at the border, the villagers at the border, they interact with the speakers from the other countries that also stays in the border. So because of that, this distribution, this continuum of the dialect happens. Sometimes you can find lexical words or lexical jargons that are being used in Terengganu. They're also used by people in Pahang and also people in Johor. Because of this, the geographical factors. Okay, and also this article also it discusses about the influence of the waterway. So this factor is way back. Okay, so they're focusing on way back in the historical factor where the people used to do businesses by using the waterway as the form of transportation lane that results in the continuum of the dialect itself. So in this study, a field work was conducted at 52 village points by using the GIS technology to obtain accurate location of the villages and also its speakers. So from there, they can track the speakers, and they can put it, they can transcribe it, put it inside a map, and then the linguistic map then is formed. So from there, they can gain a more accurate, a more precise location of these speakers, of these Terengganu Malay dialect speakers. And also, the article talks about motorway as a form of transportation, right? And it is also because the Malay Peninsula itself, the Malay Peninsula is located at the cruise known as the Maritime Silk Road between China and also the Middle East. And this factor itself is recorded in the book called The Morphology of Kuala Terengganu City, where the author itself stated that the city of Terengganu was once a stopover for traders from Asia. And also because Terengganu people itself, they were very talented at making boats and ships. And this has become one of the factors why the Terengganu state has become one of the busiest boat destinations. So that's why the continuum of Terengganu dialect itself, and also this, the distribution of the dialect itself along the east coastal states happen. So that is all for the article. We may proceed to the next presenter.
Okay, so for Article 4, which is a dialect, a way of branding and promoting business. So in this article, the authors focus on the use of local dialect for labeling. A company name is a style that serves as a company's description. It should be visually appealing and make an inedible impact on the user's mind. So the study focused on business-oriented dialect in Terengganu, and data were collected through observation of company locations, items, and websites, as well as interviews. So this study focused on the Terengganu dialect since it is one of the states that employ its dialect for business and product labeling. This phenomenon went widespread as a result of its comedic tone, pronunciation, which drew attention and enticed customers to visit this location. The appeal of utilizing dialect is one of the company's marketing techniques for promoting the brand and the goods. So the study is not only examining the uniqueness of Terengganu dialect in the marketing process, but also in business rebranding, as it is one of the efforts that can be made to keep, preserve, and conserve Terengganu's language heritage, culture, and community, as well as Malaysia's culture. The study was carried out with the aim to promote not just only Terengganu dialect utilized in everyday speech, but also its ability to act as a marketing language. This research utilized a field approach to data collecting, which entails examining business premise and goods in Kuala Terengganu in terms of their names. In addition, websites and social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and blogs have been used to collect data online. The data suggests that the using of local dialect in a business name is effective in attracting customers, owing to its unique qualities and easy to understand words. Although Terengganu is becoming increasingly well-known, Terengganu dialect-based products and labels can contribute to our country's economic development. So in general, branding a brand after a dialect of Terengganu can assist promote the dialect of Terengganu. If this trend continues, the influence on the language and cultural knowledge will be will be spread all around the world. So from me, proceed to the next presenter.
All right, so we're moving on to the findings and discussions. So for my own findings, from the interview that had been conducted, and based on the first research question, where the respondents need to differentiate or where they need to state the differences of the dialect between the rural and also the urban speakers in Terengganu. And the first respondent is a woman of 35 years old, and she does acknowledge and she is aware of the differences between the dialect that has been spoken in urban and rural speakers. They are totally different. And according to the respondent, she noted that the urban speakers uses dialect that leans more towards the standard dialect, where they uses or where each lexicals it ended with ng. So for example, such as the word ayam. So that is the standard Malay dialect pronunciation, right? So ayam means chicken. But when it comes to the Terengganu dialect, the urban dialect speakers, they pronounce it as ayang. Okay, so it ends with an ng. She also noted that the Hulu Terengganu people, is the rural people, uses a dialect that is a lot more softer, a lot more rhythmic, and the example is, let's say, telephone, right? The Terengganu dialect speakers, they say telephone, but for Hulu Terengganu people, they pronounce it as telephone. So there's a rhythmic pattern there. It makes it a lot more softer to the listener. And then for the second respondent is a 22-year-old man, and he also aware of the differences, and he also pointed out that the Hulu Terengganu people have the most their dialect is a lot more harder to comprehend. Yes, there are a lot softer. Yes, there are a lot rhythmic, but they sound more they sounded more complicated for the urban speakers itself to comprehend what they were trying to say. So when the interviewer asked about the factors of why these differences happens in the first place, they seem to not know what are the factors that contributed to these differences. So that is all for my for the first research question. We may proceed to the second presenter. Thank you.
So for the second second question finding, these two interviewees agreed that naming a business name with dialect is a professional move. The first interviewee said that the people who are curious enough bound to attract by unique shop or products name, while the second interviewee said that it's actually easier to identify what business the trader runs. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Syaira. So for the next research question, which the first question that we have come out which is do the children's siblings or their relatives still use the Terengganu dialect in their hometown, or is there any changes if they are located in the city? So for these two respondents, based on these two respondents, they both have a different slightly answers, where the first respondent have a she stated that the dialect changes in terms of communication in the city, and when they come into the city, the dialect will slightly changes between their friends and family and their relatives as well. But if they are living in their hometown, the dialect will still remain the same, which means it's much more deeper and hard to comprehend by the other listeners, and also from for example, outsiders that come into the Terengganu. While the second respondent, he stated that even though he is in the city or he is in the hometown, the dialect will still remain. He did not change, even though the simple words or maybe simple sentences, because he stated that he can comprehend or he can explain to the listeners what they are trying to say. So both of them have a different answers, and we have a different findings based on this research question. And the second question, research question, which are we come up with, what are the factors maybe that might be influence their dialect in terms of the conversation? For example, maybe their friends or their families or their relatives might be influence them in terms of dialects in their daily life. So for these findings and this, the discussion, these two respondents, they have two same answers, same answers, which are both of them stated that they have been nurtured by their parents and their grandparents to talk with a dialect. So these are the main factors why they still talk, and they still talk in their Terengganu dialect. And for our second respondent, when we survey or we conducted the interview with him, we actually have difficulties in terms of understand what he is trying to say, because the dialect is much more harder, and we have difficulty to comprehend what he is trying to say, because he is living in the hometown, which is what we say that it's far more in the hometown in Dungun, Terengganu. So the dialects is much more deeper, hard to understand. So they stated that the main factors that influence them to use the dialects is they are being nurtured. So that that we have that's all that we have come up with this two questions. So can we proceed to the next research question? Ashraf?
Okay, thank you, Mashita. So moving on to my findings. So based on the interview, there were a variety of answers that we got from the respondents. And one of the research questions is to determine whether the respondents still use the dialect in their daily life or not. The first respondent has answered that she will use the dialect at home, especially when she is communicating with her children. This is because she wants her children to get used with the dialect. And she also stated that if we speak with a particular dialect from early ages, it will be hard for us to lose it when we are communicating with other people in our daily life. Meanwhile, another respondent has stated that he will only use the dialect with people who feel comfortable with, such as his family or his friends. The next question is to discover the necessities to speak with Terengganu dialect with children at home. And most respondents has the same agreement about the matter. Both of them agree because they want to maintain their tradition, which is the dialect, and they also want their children to know about their mother tongue so that they will not forget it and teach the dialect to their children in the future. So that's all from me. And move on to the discussions part.
Thank you, Ashraf. So for the discussion part, for the first research question, for the first findings itself, so we can conclude that actually Terengganu dialect has it's one of the distinguished dialects in Peninsula Malaysia, and this study itself strives to investigate the nature of the dialect itself. So through a comprehensive interview session with the respondents from Terengganu, there were several pieces of data that had been collected. So throughout the interview, we had to use Malay language as a mean of conversation, as a tool for us to conduct the interview, because we would like to observe the respondents' usage of the dialects. So from the interview, the respondent used a fluent dialect of the Terengganu, and upon inspection and also observation, Terengganu dialect possess a lot of unique linguistic features such as nasal deletion, nasal modification, liquid deletion, and more. So during the interview, the respondents are aware of the differences in dialects between the rural and urban speakers. However, they did not seem to have any idea on why the differences itself exist in the first place. So urban speech community, it seems to evolve along with the modernization, and it creates a lot of new words, new jargons, according to the time and the era and also the situation itself. While the rural speech community seems to be a lot more secluded, they don't come in contact with the inland people, so they're not exposed to the changes that have been happening in the urban area. So that might be one of the reasons the rural speech community possesses and uses a lot stronger dialects than the urban speech community. Moving on to the next discussion.
So for the second part of the discussion, Terengganu dialect become popular due to its humorous tone, pronunciation, which drew attention and enticed consumers to visit the locations. The appeal of utilizing dialect is one of the company's marketing technique for promoting the brand of their products. That's all.
Okay, for the next findings, we can conclude that there are many factors that might be influence their dialect in terms of conversation in their daily life. But based on this interview, we can conclude that the major factors, factors that influence them is actually being nurtured by their parents and their grandparents, and maybe with their relatives. And also they have slightly two different opinions in terms of changes of dialect between urban and rural area, meaning that when they are in hometown, they speak fluently in Terengganu dialect, but when they are moving to the city, they have changes in terms of their dialects, meaning like the dialect might not be spoken fluently, or it is easy to for the listeners to understand what they are saying. So that's for the next discussion. Proceed to the last discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mashita. So throughout the interview sessions with the respondents, both of them had their own opinions and thoughts about the dialect that they speak in their life. Terengganu dialect is one of the dialect that quite familiar with the Malay community these days. But after some of the children grows up and move to urban places such as Kuala Lumpur, they tend to not use the dialect when they communicate with other people, and this action will slowly lose their dialect, especially when they have their own children in future. As parents, we do want our children possessed and empowered with our mother tongue and not forgotten about it. This is because a language is a symbolic of a community or ethnic. Therefore, there are a lot of alternatives that can be done so that the dialect usage not get extinct. For instance, parents need to encourage their children to speak with the dialect when they are in early ages. This is important to train them to speak and say words with the dialect so that they will become used to it until they grown up. Parents also can emphasize the usage of the particular dialects by using it when they are talking to their children. This is crucial so that the children will get the correct pronunciation and use the dialect with good manners. So that's all from me, and end of the discussions part. Move on to conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashraf. So as a conclusion, at the end of the day, a dialect is sometimes referred to as a mother tongue, since it is associated with a native speaker or the local community within an area or the region. So the dialect is one of the distinctive cultural heritage of Malays as the country of origins, and it deserves to be passed down from generation to another generation. However, in this study, it discovered that there is a change of a language or in terms of dialect shift among the local people, particularly in this study, in this our research in Besut, Terengganu. So throughout this study, we are able to accomplish the objective of this study, which we are able to learn and investigate the nature of dialect in Terengganu. And in addition, we have found and learned some interesting facts or more about Terengganu societies in terms of intercultural communication. And last but not least, we are able to learn about the variables or the factors that influence the dialect shift in the Malay-Terengganu community. I think that's all from me. Ashraf, we can do the closure part. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope by doing this the whole project, I hope that this can be beneficial for all the people out there to learn more about the varieties of dialect in our country. Not only Terengganu dialects, but we have other states like Kelantan, Pulau Pinang, and other states that using their own dialects. So no matter where we are, we have to appreciate our own mother tongues and not try to lose it for our future generations sake. So that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening.